Hey, I'm Joy Nkoyo, your host for this podcast. Join me as I delve into the minds of fellow artists and find out about their inspirations, creative process, and personal journeys. This is Noise in the Gallery, a podcast to inspire.
It's how can I maybe imitate the feeling of that without just copying the same recipe. The conventional, 9 to 5, it gets a very bad rep in especially I think hip hop and stuff. And I think people think you have to go from, one drastic of being, very super poor, almost homeless, and just trying to make ends meet and try and make it from music. And it's like, well, you can try to succeed in the other life. Technology, I think, from perspective of technology, that's I think where everything's changing very rapidly now, and everyone's
so
like
quick.
like
AI,
exactly, the AI on there. That's where it's moving very quick, and that's where I think it's either you can jump on that and then see where that takes you, or you can leave it behind. But is it the case, will you get left behind? That's why I think for me a project was important at that stage. I wasn't focused on trying to be like, I need to drop a project and I'm gonna be like a massive big artist or this and that. For me it was more like I wanted to look back on that in 10 years time and say, okay, that's how I sounded at that moment of time. How do I sound now 10 years later, and what have I done in between that?
I'm so thrilled to have you here. Liam is one of the most versatile, hardworking artists out here, in my opinion. You're here off the back of your album release quite recently, right?
Yeah.
With your project Worldwide Ruckus. And the album is called Wasted Potential. And I think it's amazing. You're rapping on it, some singing.
I think you're trying to yeah.
I think you're handling the music production as well.
Yeah.
And playing guitar, from what I gathered.
A little bit, but to be honest, not as much. Some I think is some samples, but I've got some past production with guitar. A little bit more I need to do though.
I think you've had quite an intense few years, releasing a prolific stream of singles, EPs, and I've been following your music career for a few years since we met. And I remember we met at the Roundhouse at, I think, Kenyan's.
Yes, yeah. It was just opposite, I think. Yeah, I think it was.
It was like a bar.
It was a show opposite, yes.
And I also remember you had this dairy milk obsession, and I just thought, this guy is here for a good time, not for a long time.
Yeah.
You were like telling me the amounts you were eating.
Oh my God, that's crazy that you even remember that. That's so bad. That's what everyone knew me for, but to be honest, I've stopped that now. I've trying to stop that. That's a bad addiction. I don't want to be. Yeah, I don't want to be known for that. That's the music first, then chocolate addiction, other addictions. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. So something interesting about you is that you have two quite different projects, solo projects, or you have had, and you released 2 albums last year, one for each.
Yes.
Kind of, right? And so maybe we could talk a bit about your solo project that you had before under your own name.
Yes, yeah.
It was kind of like singer-songwriter, lo-fi with jazzy elements. I'm just curious about like the process behind that, because you garnered kind of a weird cult following online, right? Because I went on YouTube and looked up the songs, and some other people had uploaded them, and all the comments were like, I've been looking for this for hours, for days, for years. Like, people liked
weird.
it.
Yeah, it's really weird. Because to be honest, I think with what I'm doing with Worldwide Ruckus it's for me very hip hop. It's all the rapping, and I think the time when I was doing that kind of project under my own name, and it was a bit more lo-fi and such, I was always actually writing like raps and bars, but I think it's probably a sense of I could never deliver it really from a production standpoint. So I don't know, I was always doing that kind of lo-fi. It felt a bit easy to do. I was in my uni dorm and I had my guitars and keyboard, so it was easy to I think
that was your lifestyle.
Sit there. Yeah, that was kind of the lifestyle. But to be honest, I felt like with Worldwide Ruckus, there was a lot that I can say when I'm rapping. It's a lot more subject matters I can cover, a lot more stories to tell. So I think I've always known in my mind that's the direction it was going. It was just how can I get there? And I think, it's weird because now I haven't released any music under my real name, Liam Phelan, and to be honest, I don't think I will anymore. That's for me like that was a moment in time, and that's kind of done. And the album that I released last year,
Goodbye,
right? Yeah, it's a goodbye. That's
what I was going to ask.
Exactly.
Is this the end of Liam Phelan?
That's the end. Yeah. So it was a compilation of some of the songs that I'd done throughout the years, and then a couple songs even that were on SoundCloud only that I was just like, let me put it on there. So it's that's kind of that package, and that's done.
What is it about hip hop for you then that kind of drew you in and gave you that feeling that that's where I want to go, that's going to give me the most freedom?
Probably I think there were certain artists that I grew up on, and that was, I think, what stood out for me. So when I was like really young in like East London growing up, I'd listen to a lot of different genres of music, but I think the artist that stood out was like Kanye West, Eminem, little bit like 50 Cent, even Dizzy Rascal, Gorillaz, even that whole project, that idea behind it. I was just thinking, listening to like Clint Eastwood, Feel Good Inc. And I was like, okay, these kind of songs are the ones that I think I've taken with me throughout my life. And yeah, I think in that time when I was in university, that's when I was kind of, I guess you could say, going through a phase listening to like your Mac DeMarcos and the people like Yellow Days, and just people that were really always on the guitars and just kind of very chilled vibe, and obviously learning guitar and such, that kind of felt natural. So I'd be learning like maybe bossa nova chord progressions or jazz, things like this, and I think to incorporate that then into hip hop at the time, I didn't know really how, and that kind of naturally came about. And yeah, I think, but the more and more that I started producing and kind of learning more, even sampling things like this, it started to become more and more natural. So sometimes I see like freestyles that I'd done on Instagram like 4 years ago. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. I hate it so much.
I think everyone has that, right?
Yeah. But now it's like, I would do like a freestyle stuff. I'd be like, oh, this is like, I love it. So that's for me the journey now. It's just straight hip hop. But what I'm trying to do is now incorporate those elements of where I could play guitar on tracks and fuse it all together, basically. So
that's interesting.
Yeah,
that is interesting. Did you ever feel kind of self-conscious starting to rap, or was it something that people kind of knew you did already? Were you keeping it to yourself until you felt ready to?
I think to myself, it was. I mean, there was even a time I think before I ever released music, it all came first on Instagram, and I think that's when, for example, if I'm like thinking, I'm gonna put a video online, I'm gonna do something that's like, I don't know, people might laugh at this, or I don't know how I done that chord there, I didn't like that, and yeah, I think when you just put it online and you just let people see, and then you start seeing maybe someone comments and they're like, wow, this is amazing, you're like, okay, you kind of I'm gonna keep on doing that and see what happens, and then just experiment. But as I say, it was never really rapping first, and then it was just, okay, I'm going to put this video up, and then now it feels like, the past year, it's just all I've done is, in terms of content, it's just a freestyle every other week, maybe every other month. It's just,
it's just so
playing
unfair
around
that you can do both.
Yeah.
It's so annoying. Like, I wish I could, I don't know, I don't want to rap because I just, that's not me, but I just think it's so cool when people can sing really well and rap really well. It's like, wow. It's
I think all the different styles as well. I think now especially, it's like sometimes I'll be listening to like hip hop and you see all the different very conscious style rap, maybe very mumble rap, this and that, and it's even finding what suits you better.
True.
A lot of people say to me sometimes it's a bit more like a poetry style. That's what I've heard from some people.
I think your flow on your album anyway, it can change, which is cool. Like, you're quite versatile in that sense.
Yeah, I tried to. Yeah, I don't want to be known for like just the one flow. Like, so I always am trying something different. It's just, I don't want to just keep doing the same style. Just always experiment and see where it goes.
So in terms of building towards releasing that album and making that album, were you sitting on material, or was it like, I'm making an album now, I'm writing an album?
It's always been something I've wanted to do, to be honest. I think the first song I released as Worldwide Ruckus was probably 2018, 2019 probably. But it's always been in my mind. So it's always trying to work up to that moment. And there was, I think, a time around kind of, 2019 stuff where I was doing kind of singles, and I was trying to do a single each week and then drop like an EP and things like this. But I said I want to do like a proper 10 songs. I didn't think probably best to do like, I know some might do like 20, 25 songs, things like this. I said, let me just do solid 10 songs. And to be honest, it even came to the stage, I remember during lockdown and just shortly after lockdown, I probably had like the concept for 6 different albums. So very different themes, very different productions. So like on my laptop is like, there's probably about 6 albums. And now, like, looking back, since I've released Wasted Potential, it's like I probably won't release any of those ones, because that's kind of the journey that I've gone. But even that, I think, project, there was a lot of changing with it. So I'd actually released the track Never Play It Safe in April.
You know I really want to change. Got me running to the bank, now I'm feeling so strange. Yeah, we gotta make a change. No, we never play it safe. No, we never play it safe. No, we never play it safe.
And that was kind of my return to doing music. I haven't released music for about a year at that point.
Right, okay.
And then, I said, let me just go back, release music. Let's just see what, happens. And Never Play It Safe came out in April, which was quite, I'd say, I don't want to say rock, but it definitely had rock elements to it for a hip hop track. And that's when I was saying that's going to be Wasted Potential, and that's going to be the sound that I'm going for. And then shortly after, I dropped track Parve Dao, which now has become kind of my biggest, my biggest track.
They said I'm a rude kid, but I see things different, just a young brown boy with 10 billion dreams. Like gets to the fusion dance with Kano, Skep and Wretch and D-Double-E. I might channel these legends, you know what I'm saying when I set this scene. No, I'm not broke, so don't try to fix me. I'll pay homage and I'll make my cream. I'm just a novelist. Now I might jack 'em.
And I think the reaction to that track made me literally go back to the drawing board, and I changed everything. So I probably had about 6 or 7 songs said this is where I'm going. And when I dropped Parve Dao, then the whole vibe changed, and I was like, that's the direction I'll go.
That's
interesting. And I think majority of the songs on the project all came after Parve Dao. I think the only one was Be Up In My Lane with Jay, because we were back and forth putting ideas on that. But everything else, all came after that one song. So it's like that shaped everything.
Did you know when you wrote it that like people are going to connect with this? Can you tell, or are you too close to it to like know, or does it feel quite random when people connect with a song more than others? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was quite random, because I think in the past, the songs from me that have done well are usually the songs I didn't expect them to do well. I think that's purely the case. It's like you can absolutely love something that you've created, and then you show it to the world, and everyone's like, he's like, no, nothing. It's just nothing. And then something that you absolutely hate, people are like, wow, this is amazing. I even done like a music video one time for a song called Games. That was literally just me freestyling on guitar. I was, I think, on Christmas Day a few years ago, and literally someone that I just met at the time, he's a very good friend with me now, and he reached out on Instagram and was like, I want to shoot a music video for this. This is amazing. And I don't know, within 2 weeks we made a music video and I released it. But initially I didn't think anything of it, and then people liked it, and even now releasing like Parve Dao and stuff like this, people say, I remember you from that track Games and such. So I've always known tracks that I didn't think anything of to be the ones popular. So for Parvidal, I was kind of, I personally really liked it because it was just one long verse, and the instrumentals constantly changing and evolving. So, you know, when people then started to react to it, I was like, okay, it's like, yeah, this is nice. And I think that's probably why it shaped it as well, because there was a part of me that really liked it, and it was nice to then see people react nicely to it.
And you say that, like, from that point, you sort of thought, okay, this is where I need to go a bit more.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you like to give people, I don't know, like, respond to people's responses in a way? Like, if they're really warming to something, you're kind of like, okay, this is giving me an insight into what I need to do more of?
I mean, I remember, because I really like Rick Rubin as a producer. And I think I was watching an interview of him, and he was saying, it's kind of, it's always the creatives first, what they want to make, and you kind of treat the listener last almost. And it's like, if they connect with it, they connect. If not, not. But you know that you've made something that you like. And sometimes, you know, if I release a track and people like it, sometimes I think to myself, oh, should I just try to keep, like, that's the recipe for success, should I just keep doing that? Or so I mean, I like the rapping style that I did on Parvidal. That was kind of
it came
something
from
I
you
never
first.
done. Yeah, it came from me first, and
Yeah.
it's I don't think I've released a track like that before, where it's just, I'm just gonna just keep going for like 2 minutes, just rapping, and that's it. But I mean, even now, it's like I'm already thinking like what's next to release, and I think it will be a very, very different sound to Parvidal, which is, then I'm going to see how is that going to feel, and you know, where's it going to go from there. So yeah, I think I'm happy with the direction for it, but definitely, you know, we'll see how the next releases come out and how people react to them. Then we'll see.
You'll never know. That's the cool
you never
thing.
know. Yeah.
But I love the production on the whole album. Did you produce like all of the tracks on there?
Yeah, everything was, I produced it all myself. It was probably a different different approach to production, I think. Like I said, I've always tried something different, so I've got songs where I've literally played all the instruments on it. So I've done the guitar, I've played the bass, I don't have a drum kit, but programmed drums
on the album.
Not on this one, but
Okay.
in the past.
Previous.
In the past, for especially on the like Liam Phelan project side of things like this, and then even as well where Ruckus, there's times where I've sampled existing songs, and I said, oh, you know, maybe I'm not going to put it on streaming sites because of, you know, copyright and all things like this, but on YouTube and stuff like this. So I've then tried to sample, and then even at times like loops or things like this. So there's a mix, I think, of loops, stuff that's been played in. I mean, Parvidal was literally two tracks. I think it was like a drum loop that I found, a very, very simple drum loop, which is literally just like a 4/8 bar loop. It's just kick, snare, very, very simple. And then the actual loop that I'd found itself was from where was it from? I'd found it somewhere online. It's like a royalty-free like loop essentially, and it kind of, it had all these different sections. I think I just literally just chopped each section up and then moved it around. So the actual track is literally just drums, the sample, and then vocals. So there's not even a lot going on. And then, you know, there's other tracks, I think, you know, Be Up In My Lane, for example, is you know, each drum is individual, which I've played in, and then played with the loops, and you know, that's so many different tracks, and Jay's vocals are you know, stacked with all the ad libs, and mine.
Before we dance in clubs and look down on rivals, I was with my tugs doing weed and vinyl. So many rappers these days entitled, so many internet talkers riled.
Yeah, it's every track had a different approach, I think, but I tried to kind of theme it all together, so everything had a similar kind of, I guess, feeling to it. There's not really, I think, any super happy songs on the project, and I don't want to say there's any really sad songs on the project, but definitely it's a, I think at times can be quite deep project. So
feel like all your production in the end sounds super crisp, like airtight, very neat. Like there's no fluff in the end. So it's funny that it's interesting that every single track had a different process. Because I was wondering, like, is there a recipe to a Worldwide Ruckus track? Like, do you? Because it just does sound very cohesive. So yeah, I like that, how crisp it is.
Yeah.
Like it shows mastery sometimes to almost keep it simple. So yeah, it's interesting.
I think it's always good experimenting, trying something different. But I think for me, it's just the case when I've kind of got sound. It's how can I maybe imitate the feeling of that without just copying the same recipe and yeah, I think to be honest, a lot of the tracks on there, even there's probably 3 or 4 versions of that song with very different instrumentals, which completely changed the whole dynamic of the song. Because I know at the end, so the second track, Hall of Fame, at the very end of that, there's maybe like a little skit type version, and that's literally the same lyrics from the first track, Journey.
And now I'm waking up this morning feeling like a bullet penetrate my brain. Another day of working up is changed. Another day of hustling pennies for...
Now I'm waking up this morning feeling like a bullet penetrate my brain. Another day of working up is changed. Another day of hustling pennies for some change. Now
That little skit at the end of Hall of Fame, that was like the first version of that song that I'd done. And that's why I just wanted to include it in there, just to think, okay, you know, how can I show that song in a different light? So that verse that is on Journey, there's probably 4 or 5 different instrumentals with that song on it, with those lyrics on it, and everyone's got a different feel. So and I think if I'd probably started the whole project with that little end skit, then the whole rest of the project would be very different vibes. So yeah, it's for me how to imitate a feeling without just copying the recipe, just go in and say, I know a lot of genres just from studying them, they'll have the sonic signatures. So you'll be like, if I do grime, I'll do 140 BPM, and I don't like to go into a track and set the BPM, or it's just listen, what can I do with this? If this track is at 160 BPM, what will happen if I like warp it and then bring it all the way down to like 50, and then how does that sound? And yeah, it's just playing around,
curiosity, and going into individual sounds. I like that approach. What's like the weirdest production move you've made, like something outlandish that you've thought, oh, that sounds good, I'm gonna do this to it, or make this sound?
I don't think I have too many songs where I've released, but definitely on like my laptop or my hard drive, there's a lot of songs which I've done a lot of reversing of tracks. For me, it's a very simple thing. You literally put the file in and reverse it, but I think the sounds have been like, some of the stuff that you hear is just really crazy.
Strange,
when you
but
reverse
it works.
And it works, and definitely I think this year going forward there'll be some of the tracks that I've tried that with, because when I think about wasted potential, I think it's all, every sound file is the right way, not reversed. So I think going forward, definitely, like this morning, even before I came here, I was listening to a track where I've like reversed this loop, and it's become, one of the most favorite things that I think that I've produced. I still need to finish it, but it's like, for sure, it's like that will be released, and
something interesting I've heard is people who are recording backing vocals, but it's their own voice. They'll put on this crazy, like, really nasal voice, like,
the different things.
And then like mix it in, and it actually does sound good in the end, apparently. I need to try it, but
I think to be honest, playing around, I think, with the voice as well is quite a crazy one. I used to do it a lot, and then I think I got very self-conscious. I was like, oh, this is very embarrassing. Like, and there's a lot of artists that I listen to, and you listen to some of their older stuff, and sometimes I watch them in interviews, and they'll be like, oh, I hate when I did that, or I didn't like doing that. I remember one artist I really loved, Childish Gambino, and I've seen like, he's got really, really early stuff which is nowhere on like streaming sites or anything, and he used to rap like with a voice like Lil Wayne, and then he doesn't do like any of that anymore. But weirdly enough, one of the songs I think she made him blow up is Redbone, where he's like singing really exactly, and it's like, okay, so he used to play around with his voice, and then he kind of was like, oh, I don't like that, tried to then start rapping very kind of deep and such, and then now he's gone back to doing that. So you never know, I might try and experiment in the future. But yeah, the voices, yeah, you can get a lot of interesting sounds. Yeah.
Who mixed and mastered the album? Did you do it? Because I was wondering how you find that, if you've ever tried mixing your own stuff before.
To be honest, everything I've ever released is mixed and mastered by me. That's probably, I think, the area that I want to experiment with maybe other people doing, I think, though, going forward. I just know at times it can be quite expensive when you try to mix and master whole projects. So at times, like, okay, let me learn, experiment. And I think mastering's probably different, but I think definitely mixing, you can give a track your own kind of identity.
I mean, you've done really, really well. Like, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
But it's hard to mix your own work. Well, I find that because you've made the work, it's hard to view it objectively. And it's a completely different thought process that you're going through when it comes to mixing.
Yeah.
Like, of course, it can enhance and it should enhance the ideas and, like, the creativity. But you also have to have a slightly clinical hat on as well. It's weird.
Yeah. I to be honest, I try to kind of mix going along. That's, I think, the one thing that's a bit of it's an interesting process, but I think it's I often see people that are doing mix and stuff, and they'll say, oh, send me the stems and do it all dry, and then we're gonna mix from here, or it's kind of a step-by-step process. But for me, when I'm making music, everything, I think, is all
incorporated,
is together. Because I'd start usually I'd maybe start producing a track, and then, I don't know, 10 minutes into producing it, I've got like a kind of a solid loop that I like, and then I completely abandon all production and I just start writing to the loop. So it's like, I'll start writing, and it's like, oh, let me try this first, or I'll even look on my previous lyrics to see, is there something I haven't used that I can fit onto this? And it's so much back and forth. So it's literally loop, lyrics. Oh, okay, now let me produce around what I've just written, and then I wonder how my voice would sound if I brought the reverb up here, and how would this loop sound if I pitched it down by 12 and added the EQ and took it, and it's like I'm just doing everything in one go. So I know definitely for sure if I was to send my files to an engineer, they'd probably like because it's all myself, so I don't even name the tracks.
This is the thing, you've got to be organised.
Exactly.
And I hate that. I feel like when I send something to be mixed, it's like a whole 3 days just making sense of the rubbish.
What it is.
Like, I don't even know what's what at this point.
Yeah. So definitely, that's why I think sending my projects to engineer, I think that they'd hate me, because I think the whole of Wasted Potential is literally every single strip is just audio 1, audio 2, audio 3, MIDI, audio, because I know what I'm doing. So it's like, okay, I can work around it. But for sure, going forward, it's like, we'll have to probably
tidy up.
Tidy up. Yeah.
That's funny. Let's talk a bit about your ideas behind your album, because you told me that it explores your perspective and kind of goes through different stages of your life, and it's more personal than maybe some of your previous tracks with your project. So your album speaks to your personal experiences growing up. What should people know about you that kind of gives your music and gives you context, so people can understand who you are?
I think for me, people, they often they don't know what to make of me if they meet me first time, because I think I'm 26, but literally going through kind of my life, I've already lived in many different areas. I've been to different places. you know, if I often tell people, it's like I was born and raised until about 10 or 11 in Newham, they're like, why don't you speak slang, or why don't you, you know, why, like they just have this kind of perception of how, and especially if I say I do music, then they might say, oh, you know, why are you not doing grime, or why are you not doing drill, or things like this. And for me, it's just all these different areas I've lived. I've had different, I'd say, experiences, and that's kind of shaped even the interests and things that I like. So it's purely just a case, born and raised in East London, and then my grandmother's, you know, she'd always go to church and say, oh, you know, you come with me to church, and then raised very Christian, so very...
What kind of denomination was it? Like Catholic?
Catholic, yeah. And then I ended up going to like Catholic school, and like, so my secondary school was like a Catholic school, and I was doing like the Bible studies and stuff, and I think people can probably tell now with the freestyles that I do on Instagram, because I'm often using like religious imagery and
metaphors.
Things like this, but I don't consider myself religious. So that's the thing, it's the fact that it's like I was brought up a certain way, but I've kind of shaped my own views based off of the experiences. So, you know, now it's even, I even quoted in Hall of Fame, them lot think that religion is true, but me, I came through on a selfish gene. That's a Dawkins bar for Dawkins. So it's even like growing up, I was like reading Richard Dawkins or you know, the Origin of Speech and stuff. So it's like, then I start reading things, and it's, I kind of shaped my own worldview despite the upbringing that I had, and that's then why I tried to, I think, translate that all through my music.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I think church can be quite, I don't know, if you're raised religious, it can be quite an all-encompassing environment. So it's hard to have your own identity or your own thoughts. So I think that sort of is testament to your strength of mind and character to kind of make up your own mind and have your own opinions, and still be able to talk about that in your music and explore the imagery and all of that. That's really interesting.
It's interesting, because I still use the religious themes, even though I declare I'm not religious, but it's that the themes are there, and I guess the history around it, reading it as well, you know. And I think another interesting probably outlook I had is many people, they would never really tell from looking at me. That I often get people say, you know, are you South American, are you Asian, or like they literally say all this different stuff, when, you know, reality is my mom is very, very white. She's English. My father is Kenyan, African, and people, they don't know that. Like, upon looking, they're just like, oh, you know. And if I say Kenyan, they say, oh, it must be like the like in India, because a lot of Indian settled in Kenya as well. And it's like, no, he's just East African. And there's some religious, I guess, factors there as well, because even like my father, he was Christian, but I've got family in Kenya that are like Muslim, for example. So it's even just different perspectives in this regard. But I think, often when people meet me, they don't know what to make then, because it's literally like, where are you from in terms of where you were brought up? Okay, where are you from in terms of country? What is like your background? Like they don't know. Probably I don't give that in the way that I do stuff. So that's why I try to put it all in the music. Like, okay, this is my view on this, maybe, or this is my view on this, or
do you feel like making music kind of gives you a way to formulate who you are and sort of articulate that, because people looking at you can't make sense of you?
Probably. I think it's a good, I think, kind of starting point if you want to know. Then definitely, I think the music. I think there was a time where it was probably, it kind of felt like two different sides, because I definitely had, like, you know, if I'm working or in university, things like this, people that I would meet, if they didn't know that I did music at the start, and they got to know me without ever knowing that I did music, when they then discover the music, they're like, who is this woman? Like, they don't know. So sometimes at the time it was like almost living two different lives. And then I should say, just listen to this, and you know, you'll know my thoughts on certain things. And I say, oh, okay. Like when they really then actually listen to it, because I think as well, sometimes people might not listen to the lyrics, they just want to hear the flow, they want to hear the, you know, the different melodies and stuff. So I say just listen, like just listen
Pay
properly,
attention.
and then you'll know. And yeah,
Have
I
you
think that's
often felt like sort of torn, or like you have to split yourself into different parts to be understood by different people?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Really?
Yeah, all the time. I think now is, I think I was saying this to a friend. Is kind of a little bit like it's a bit childish, but I guess like what this kind of Spider-Man and the Peter Parker kind of thing like that. Whereas, you know, this kid is like trying to go to school and live a life, and then and that kind of, I guess, shaped as well even like the title and the kind of theme of wasted potential. Because you know, I'd go to school and people would say, oh, you know, he doesn't apply himself maybe here, or he doesn't apply himself there, and it's you know, what'd you do when you go home? They'd probably think, oh, he's just, you know, when I was younger, yes, probably playing video games, just messing around with. But if now you say, oh, what's Liam doing when he goes home? It's like make music, reading books, like trying to look at businesses, things like actually doing things. So the idea of wasted potential is this kind of, people might think you're not applying yourself, but if I'm kind of in one realm, almost like a Peter Parker, and it's then in the other realm, not Spider-Man, not swinging around and things like that, but definitely the music side is living another life. It's like, how to kind of encompass everything in one, to say, this is what I do music wise, this is what I do here work wise, this is what I do here, and it's all one entity.
Because I was gonna say, what I like about you and your music is that it doesn't feel like, now anyway, you don't have to compartmentalize. Like, I like that you talk about your job, you have a proper job, right? Selling watches, and you kind of incorporate that, and it just comes off like very authentic. You know, there's a bit of a narrative that you have to be a starving, dysfunctional rapper. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You can't have your stuff together. Yes. Like, you can't be stable.
Yeah.
And I like that you sort of dispel that myth.
Yeah, that's what I think one of the challenges. And that's, I guess, one of the missions I'm trying to do with music. So is to say, you know, I think the conventional, 9 to 5, it gets a very bad rep in especially, I think, hip hop and stuff. And I think people think you have to go from, one drastic of being, very super poor, almost homeless, and just trying to make ends meet and try and make it from music. And it's like, well, you can try to succeed in the other life, and it's actually funny that, because since I released Wasted Potential, there's a track with Dave and Jack Harlow that came out, and I don't remember the full lyric, but I remember Dave in the song, he said something like he met a fan at his job and he was saying, oh, this is just what I do on the side, and then he's saying, Davey like reflects, and he's like, oh, as if I'm unimpressed by his everyday life. So he's kind of just saying like, he's met a fan and he's almost ashamed that he's seen him at work, and he's trying to like play it off like, oh no, this is not what I do. This is my side thing. It's like if you find a good career or good path, I came into the watch industry literally serving coffees and sending emails. Like there's nothing I'd say glamorous or luxurious, about literally coming into a role starting from the entry level. And, I don't want to say the name because I'm working now, but now working for very big watch brand. So it's like you can elevate on one side, and then, any extra money that I've made from the 9 to 5 is just go straight into music. And it's like, oh, my payslip is this much bigger, I'm going to take this much and then use it to pay for like marketing, or now I'm going to use it to pay for mastering even in the future. So it's I guess they come probably from like artists like I guess like maybe like a Nas or Jay-Z, who are a bit more business, like they own their business, but definitely it's you can be a kind of a successful mogul, you can be an entrepreneur, you can grow in one field and put it in the music, and it will win. You will win either way. And that's what I think needs to happen more, I think, in hip hop for sure, I think, because I think it's definitely gone very the direction of just, oh no, I only want to
do
this music, and
I'll sleep in my car, and then
let me sleep in the car.
Now I've got like gold teeth and I've got everything I want. It's extremes, like the polarization from one extreme to the other.
Yeah, and it definitely, I think the Watches has been quite an interesting, I think, industry to work in, because there's even very, I don't want to say names, but I've even come across a lot of very big rappers in the watch world, you have the people and they say, oh, I want to get the big watch with the big diamonds and the things like this, and it's we can.
It's not a million miles off.
Yeah,
like there is that market there, isn't there?
Yeah. So to be honest, the industries are quite connected to some degree. So yeah, we're even looking, me and a couple people, we're working on some projects as well, even in the future, to say, we'll make these worlds meet like properly. We'll
that's
make them meet properly. So we'll see. 2024 for sure. Yeah, this year. Yeah, we'll see.
It sounds really exciting. So you just mentioned Jay-Z, who is one of your inspirations, and you mentioned as well, when I asked about who your influences were, you said 444, his album.
Yes.
Is it him as a person that inspires you, the music, or both?
I think to be honest, him as a person. One of my very good friends, who, like I mentioned before, I actually met him through, weirdly enough, we met doing music first, but then he actually came to work with me doing watches. We kind of formed this weird community, and there's another person, the one that I mentioned shot my first music video. He turned out to be working in the place that I went to work for, so we've kind of formed this weird kind of community where we're very big into music and watches. But for example, he's very big into Jay-Z, and he will always quote to me like the old Jay-Z lyrics, the old Jay-Z songs, and I actually don't really know much about his early songs. I didn't listen to him at that time. For me, though, I think 444 is where it was like, I don't think I'd ever heard an album that was very honest or as reflective as that album. And oftentimes I'd see people, there's the big debate online where people talk about the would you rather have dinner with Jay-Z or the 500,000, this one. And for me, I was saying, it's like, take the 500,000 and just buy 444, because in the whole album he's talking about everything.
But doesn't he even say that in the album? Yeah, he's like, I'm trying to give you like
in the story of OG. I'm trying to give you something
for $9.99.
Yeah, and
like
I say
millions of advice or something. Exactly. I don't know what it was.
And I say for me, it's like Story of OG. I think that's a very underrated song. I think people, they expect maybe radio hits, or they expect something very kind of energetic, and at times it's just very because I think even the production behind it, the microphone that they used, I think the whole, I remember like reading into it, and they were saying that they want it to be very intimate sounding, essentially, and I think that whole album, I think, shaped my kind of views on Jay-Z more, as opposed to some of his older material. And then from this, I started looking into his, interviews, and started seeing, all the business ventures that he does. And I think that's probably a good base for what I enjoy, at least, out of hip hop. I'm often quite critical of some of the other hip hop that I'm seeing online, some of the stuff that gets spoken about. And I think, for a man that talks about, before drugs or things like this, or his past dealings, now he's there talking about, I made this mistake with my wife, this is this is what I should have done better here, this is how my relationship is with my family, this is my this is how I managed to shape that life and then turn it into becoming a billionaire. So
it's like real, it's actual real truths that are timeless, universal, and don't feel shallow.
I can't remember when the album came out, but it's for me, I think, quite interesting that I'm still going back to it. After
it does sound timeless, because I think a lot of the samples he uses are quite like from the 60s, 50s. Like he's got a real mix of sounds as well, like the gospel. different elements, and that kind of makes it feel like not set in a particular time.
Yeah. The whole thing is themed, and I think he done quite a lot of music videos. I'm thinking if he did a music video for every song on there. Even point out to me, which I didn't realize, is that he's not in any of the music videos as well that he released.
Right, okay, that's interesting.
Is, you know, I think Story of OJ is him, but it's a cartoon. It's you know, it's not really him. And then I think 444 had one, Moonlight had one. It's just, he had a different concept for every music video, and it's him rapping, but he's not in the videos. It's not like your traditional. And I thought that was interesting. Because actually, I remember we even had a conversation about music videos when we first met. I think we were talking about, you remembered the chocolate, I remembered the music.
It says a lot about me, what I remember, right?
But I remember we was talking about like you know, sometimes now I'll see music videos and it's the same formula, you know.
I think I remember this actually.
I was saying that like sometimes I'll go onto like some of these blog pages and it's, you know, oh, we're going to go stand in front of this estate, or we're going to stand here, or we're going to, you know, we're going to get a Rolls Royce for our video and things like this. And I just thought that was really interesting from Jay-Z, that every music video had its own theme and own story. Yeah, and it's a very intimate album, which is his music, yet he wasn't in any of the and he's, you know, the album covers even, you know, usually you can see someone puts their face on the album cover or everything, but it's just kind of almost, it's all about his voice, and he's removed his face from everything. I thought that even kind of inspired, I think, the cover a little bit for my project, Where's Potential, was saying, I had this whole talk saying, there's some albums where, you know, the rappers will put themselves on the cover, like, you know, I really like Mos Def's album, Black on Both Sides, which is his face, and 50 Cent's albums was him, and everyone had their kind of face or such, and for that to be very removed, thought it was quite interesting to see. Yeah,
I've mentioned this already, like how prolific you are. Like it appears like you're always making music, churning music. Have you ever dealt with writer's block? No.
I think there's times where I'll step away from doing music and just do my own kind of, just I guess personal things. After I dropped Wasted Potential, I don't think I remember writing anything for the whole month of December or even November, I think. Yeah, I don't mind not to write. I used to write so much, I think, you know, in previous years, even because I started re-releasing music again from April last year. From that point, I didn't release, I think, a single song in 2022. I don't think I released anything, but I was always creating stuff. So yeah, I think I've probably written so much material that is unreleased that even if I didn't write anything for like the next 6 months, I've already got stuff. As long as I've got an instrumental, I could literally pick old verses that no one's heard before and then apply that, and people will be like, oh, that kind of sounds fresh. But to me, it's really not. So I think that's probably, I think, my whole look on writer's block. I don't think I've ever struggled from a writing point. It's just more production. Most of the time I could make like 20 instruments and say I hate everything, and this is how it is. But yeah. How
do you find the balance of like quality and quantity, especially when it comes to releasing? Because it's one thing to make a bunch of stuff and just have it sitting on your hard drive, but then, you know, how do you find balancing that like release schedule?
This was the one I think I was quite conflicted with always, because I think creating for me now has come to the point where, you know, I can create, it's not an issue. I obviously understand there's obviously the whole business side of things, the whole marketing side and everything like this. And I remember even watching the artists like Russ, but the American one, and he's, I think, probably super famous for his whole outlook on catalogs and releasing. And he said, you should release a song every single Friday and you know, go from there. And that's what I did in 2021. Was it? Yeah, I think in 2021 I'd done that.
COVID,
and
yeah. Or was that 2020?
I think it was, yeah.
That was
Well, COVID
2020.
was 2020. I think it was probably, though, 2021 and... No, it wasn't. It was 2020. You're right, it was 2020 because it's just after, I think, COVID. And I'd done that approach. So that's when I'd done, for example, I did like a song each Friday for 4 weeks. And at the end of the month, I'd done like an EP containing all 3 or 4 songs that I'd released with like 2 extra songs. And I think at that moment, you know, I got like a play on like BBC introducing and things like this. So it was like, oh, I can see kind of how it's kind of working. And then didn't release any music, and then came back, and it was kind of, to some degree, there was some planning, and it was trying to find, I think, the balance. And now it's kind of how I look at it is, should I just spam with lots of music, or should I really just focus on a project, and then that's all I'm going to talk about for 6 months? So I know, like, now we're talking, I'm already kind of thinking, what am I doing next? But most artists, they'll drop, you know, if they drop the project in November, they might still be talking about it for 2 years, and you won't see anything new from them. That's all it is. So I think that's a little bit of the curse of me, where it's like I always want to create something, but it's the case of maybe I should focus on what I have.
It's a tough one.
Yeah,
it is a really tricky one.
Yeah.
It's cool that you have that ability to churn it out, though, because you know you can do that and just release every Friday. Do you think you could have kept that going, or was it tough?
No, I think I would. Do you know what? It's the content creating that would burn me out. The music is fine. But it's the case of, you know, Instagram's the one where it just, like, I think it drives me insane, because it's, you know, I before I used to literally just take my phone and I'd set it like on a table on the side, and I'd just, you know, start freestyling, and that's where some of like the kind of biggest responses have come from, where it's literally just a video where I just put my phone on the side and recorded there. And then I remember there was a time even, which was during the lockdowns, where I would do like a challenge on Instagram, and I say to like the people that were responding, like send a random word and I'll try and incorporate it into like a verse or a freestyle and something like this. And I did like a producer challenge at one point, where I said, you know, it was like a Worldwide Ruckus Worldwide challenge, where I said, you know, whichever country you're from, send a song from your country and I'll try and sample it and make a track. And it was, for me, that's where I was burning out. It's like I could create song after song after song, but when I have to do something for other people, and it's like, you know, I've set the challenge, that's where I'd get burned out. So it was weird to think that I could sit there and make projects limitless, but the moment that there's that incorporation, I was like, oh, I can't do it. So I think I'll probably focus this year more, I think, on the kind of route of projects, and I would like to at least do maybe not 10 songs, but 6 or 7, maybe 2 projects. I have a few singles as well here and there, which are different sounds, but that for me would be, I think, quite sustainable to push out. Yeah,
I feel like it must be nice as well to make something cohesive that has like a message, or I don't know, an overall vision. It's probably more fulfilling, because singles are fun, but then it's like, it's just like a firework.
That's it. Yeah. I think a project, you know, for me, I've always, when it comes to music, I know there's a big thing now with like playlists and such like this, and there was a time where I used to, you know, I'd have so much fun making my own playlists and do stuff like that. But I think now what stands up to me is what I used to do before all streaming kind of came out, is just listen to a project and listen to what. And I think some of the biggest artists, they're known for the project and the world that they're creating. That's why, you know, it makes me, like, when I see over here you got the Tyler Creator and the like Kanye poster, even just looking at the album covers that you've got up there, it's like each album was a different era, was a different world, and that's, you know, despite all the things that Kanye gets into trouble for, that's why he's, you know,
the work is the work.
Exactly.
Like,
people can't ignore that, you know, and that's that's over 20 years of projects. And you know, Jay-Z's the same, and Tyler Creator I think is probably one of the I think out of some of the newer artists, I think he's probably one of the biggest that's managed to achieve this idea of creating a world and a universe. You know, I think it was on his recent project. He had the music video with like all these different characters. Yeah. And I thought that was, you know, that's something you can only, after years and years of doing music, then you look back on, you say, wow, he had all of these different, you know, journeys and experiences, and people really bought into that. So that's why I think for me a project was important at that stage, to say, you know, I wasn't focused on trying to be like, oh, I need to drop a project and I'm gonna be like a massive big artist or this and that. For me it was more like I wanted to look back on that in, you know, 10 years time and say, oh, okay, that was there, that's how I sounded at that moment of time. That was the project. How do I sound now 10 years later, and what have I done in between that sounds different? So I think, yeah, definitely for now it's going to be more projects as opposed to single. And single I'd probably here and there scatter it around, I think. Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice that you've been given about your career? Something that you felt like, yeah, I can apply this to me and it worked for you?
It's interesting. You know, it's funny enough you said that, and the first thing that popped to my head is something that someone said to me when I was selling them a watch, and they were a DJ in Miami, and I said, I do music as well, and he said stick to watches. He said, don't do music. I was like, I don't know why that's the first thing that popped into my head. It's like,
don't do it.
He's like big into his watches, and he did music, and he was like, literally, he was just like, oh, don't do music. Stick to watches.
So depressing.
Yeah,
bro.
so okay, fine.
I mean, a lot of people will tell you not to do something, but maybe it's like a warning someone gave you, like, just watch this, be careful of this.
Yeah, that would spur me though to do it more. You know, I think what I've noticed about myself is if you tell me not to do something, then I'll I will do it. Or, you know, equally, if you tell me to do something, then you know, I won't do it. So I think, yeah, best probably advice you give me is something that I will do the opposite to. So I think that's probably why that came to my head straight, because I was like, no, you know, just stick with it. But I'd probably say, do you know what, it's going off, I think, of Tyler, the Tyler Creator, and I remember this interview I watched of him. It wasn't, you know, someone personally that gave me that advice, but I think watching that, something that always stuck with me. He did an interview with Arsenio Hall, I think 2013, so this is years back. And he was talking about, he doesn't understand why people will study what maybe their parents want them to study, and he says, well, what's going to happen, like, you know, when everyone that's older than you that told you to do this passes away, and you're stuck paying like debt for something that you didn't want to do in the first place, and you should always do what, you know, speaks to your heart, essentially, and such like that. And I think that interview always stuck with me, because like I was saying with kind of growing up, despite the kind of views that maybe were put onto me or what grew up around, or if someone said, oh, you know, you have to do it like this, it was always, I'd take it into consideration, but I'd always try to formulate my own view around it. And I think that probably helped me with music to create a project, or to create songs that are something that I wanted to create, not for example, if I said, oh, I can see that drill is very popular, why don't I just make 10 songs of drill type instrumentals, you know, and just make what is popular, essentially. So I think that for me is, you know, do what you want to do what feels right to you. And I think people will see when you're influenced by certain sounds, and they will see that. You know, I've had people message me and they say, oh, you sound like this artist, or you sound like, I was very happy you say that because I like that artist, or such. So I think that was probably some good advice that I saw, years ago, and that literally has always stuck with me, is, you know what you want to do, and just stick with that essentially, you know. That's,
If I play devil's advocate, like, a very common saying is adapt or die, right? How do you navigate that kind of new ideas coming in, new sounds, new stuff. Do you think about that, or do you feel like naturally certain things just like leak through into your mind where you're like, oh, I like that, so naturally you'll take that on? Or do you ever find yourself kind of having to go, whoa, what's going on? Like, do I need to pay attention to this sort of thing?
I think musically is I'll always be open-minded. I don't want to try to just do like I was saying earlier, like I don't just want to listen out for the kind of sonic signatures of a genre and then just try and copy it. But if a new genre comes about, definitely can take influence from it. There's a song Lalo on the project where the kick drum is that kind of, I don't know much about the genre, but it's I think they call it Jersey beat or such, and it's like the kick is like dum 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 dum, and it's like I'm hearing it.
070 Shake has a track
like
with
this.
that beat.
Okay, yeah, and I've hearing that kind of, you know, cropping up everywhere, and you know, I'd even heard like AJ Tracey done a song with that kind of kick pattern, and certain artists are doing that, and you know, that's something that seems to be a little bit big, and I didn't make a song that's exactly like, but I used that kind of element in the production. And then I've got the track Lords where
I like that one.
Yeah, it's very kind of mellow and such, but the kind of patterns of the drum are a little bit drill inspired with the hi-hats and the beat. So for me, it's that I can try and make a song that's my kind of sound, but I will take elements here and there. So I think it's fine, definitely on a genre perspective. I don't mind at all. Definitely, I think from a more technology, I think from a perspective, of technology, that's I think where everything's changing very rapidly now, and everyone's
so
like,
quick.
like
AI,
exactly, the AI on there, and people are like, you know, if you want to do your music, you got to use like TikTok. TikTok is the way that you've got to go, and you got to use the AI and that's where it's moving very quick, and that's where I think it's either you can jump on that and then see where that takes you, or you can, you know, leave it behind. But is it the case will you get left behind? And to be honest, I think still I'd stay strong on the concept of you should always do like a project that's very, you know, like say timeless, because I don't think you can achieve that result from, you know, making a very trendy song and then
hopping on the
I saw like an artist I remixed a song on Instagram the other day, and she was saying that, you know, the thing now is that you have to make a song and make, you know, 200 videos for it that you're going to upload to TikTok, and it's the same soundbite, so you're trying to get people on the soundbite so the algorithm picks up your track, and it's you know, I think when you start to think like that, that's when the art goes away, and that's when it's just all
marketing
exercise. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think marketing I think is very important, but there's a line of, do you want to make art or do you want to make money, essentially? And you know, you can do both, but I think there's a right way to do it, and so many artists have laid that blueprint, and it seems to be work. Like, you know, I literally just said like Tyler the Creator probably came out in around 2011 maybe. He's a bit
but
more...
I mean, he kind of changed everything with the collective, right?
Yeah.
Wolfgang.
Yes,
you know, all of that, because I think that was the beginning of this like DIY attitude.
Yes, yeah.
And they were one of the first in hip hop to like really make that a thing.
Yeah.
Before you're kind of relying on labels and stuff.
Exactly,
and it's cool how they were just like, no, we're gonna create our own culture, create our own. This is the whole
image and world.
Yeah. And it's cool.
Yeah, I think the interesting one as well, actually, couple of artists that inspired us all the projects was a lot of the UK grime artists, I think, as well. I think it's quite interesting because they're, I think, very DIY as well. And what I've noticed is a lot of the kind of pioneers of the genre are the ones today that are releasing like these really, you know, timeless projects. Like one of the ones he inspired, he's mentioned like the first few lines, Gets on Parve Dao. He was like a very big inspiration for the rapping style, and he's been making music for, you know, years and years and years, and he's one of few, I think, grime artists that are releasing projects. A lot of them, you'd know them usually for radio, and then they go to do like, you know, the kind of the live sets and things like this, and they might release singles, but you don't really see a project from them or an album. And I guess one where I was looking back, I was like, wow, he's got this project and he's got a very different sound. And I went to see him live a couple of years ago in Roundhouse, and he themed his whole set on, this is my new album, these are the songs from the album. And then he had a whole section in the middle where it was like almost like a throwback to his grime days, and he, you know, did a DJ set, and then he would bring out these different, you know, he was bringing out Stormzy and Kano and DWE, and it was just very interesting to see that this person has navigated through all the noise essentially, and he had one of the biggest, I think, UK albums for like definitely from a rapping perspective. I think that was 2021, and now he's come out with a new album, but it's like that's a nice stage at your career to really get recognized for that. And yeah, that's where I think you're ignoring the noise, you know. He's not someone that's just hopping on TikTok and say, oh, this is where the industry's at now, so I gotta do this formula. He's stuck to what he's doing, and you know, it almost seems like he's gaining more attention when really he's at 10-15 years down the career, and that's when he's gaining even more. And I think, you know, that for me is like that's my blueprint to want to follow. You know, you do all of this and grow consecutively, and one day if it gets, then everyone's just going to look back. And
I like that idea of a blueprint, or which is kind of unique to different people. You know, for someone else, they might see another blueprint where it's like, that's what's going to work for me. I like that, kind of deciding what your blueprint is going to be. Yeah, that's cool. So I wanted to ask, what's next for you, looking into the future? Have you got any ideas? I know you've spoken a bit about wanting to, of course, release more music. You've got a collaboration potentially.
Hopefully, yeah. I hope so, yeah.
Is it more of that sort of stuff?
Yeah, to be honest, I think collaboration, I think for me, I think it's come a point it's definitely in my, I think, musical journey where it's been a lot of in my room, this is very like maybe personal, this is my music, but I think well, you can do it all by yourself kind of thing, so it must be weird to kind of let people into that process. Yeah, it's you know, there's even times I've worked with some like producers and stuff, and you know, I'll be programming drums saying, no, it should sound like that, and some get like a bit defensive, like no, this is how I want it. But it's that's the thing for me, is like to grow, I think, collaborate, and then from there you'll come up with different sounds as well. You know, I think it was nice to have a feature on Wasted Potential with Jaya, which is actually the second song that we've done. So we actually had one before that, which is completely different sound, and it's not released, that one, but
right, okay.
It was just if you were to hear the two, you'd see it's completely like Be Up in Money is very energetic, this is a very chill vibe. But that's what I like, is that, you know, you can bounce these different ideas off of people, and it was quite nice that someone had reached out to me from literally Instagram.
Oh, wow.
And it was it will have other artists on it, so it will be multiple people, but I think that's for me, is my verses on other people's tracks. I think will be quite interesting, and then I think that would give me a different perspective, and then going back into my like own production, I think just something very different, because I think Wasted Potential was quite, at some stages, quite mellow. So I think the next one will probably be quite energetic to just balance it out, and then even the themes and the topics, because like I said, I've kind of built these different worlds with what I want to say. And definitely I think there's I already have even like the names, partly like the album covers, things like this, so it's
formulating.
It's just it's just working on it and getting it to the final stages. So I think that's probably next for me. It's just more collaborations, different styles of music, and And I think to be, definitely more, even like that's something I didn't crack as well, like live shows or music videos as much as well.
Yeah, I was going
That's
to
the
ask
one.
actually, live shows,
Yeah.
is that something you've experienced much of, like performing your own stuff?
No, I've only performed twice, to be honest.
Wow.
So it's really weird, I think, when you see, this person is just rapping so much online, and then I think part of that came from the kind of the work side of things from a not musical perspective, is again trying to find that balance of can I schedule this show and then how would that look when I go to work tomorrow, and things like this. So it's all the logistics around it, but definitely, for sure. It's like I've spoke to a couple people as well, and they're saying some events, so we'll see. And I already know myself, I've already got all the material as well, so it's like it's ready.
It's just time and place.
Exactly,
yeah.
Time and place. And then music videos. I think that's the one thing I think that is. I probably have one of the biggest, I think, obsessions with artist music videos.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even what I do on, say, like Instagram now is, it's not like high production, but definitely it's not just my phone and recording. It's now I maybe record the track and, I'm editing myself with these little filters and stuff and putting stuff together. So I say that for sure, I think music video will tell the story of the projects. Because I think in this project, I only done like one kind of music video for Pavida, which was like a very DIY project. I was at home.
I saw that, but it was cool though.
And it was just, to be honest, I was only doing it as like a kind of promotion thing. So it was just, I wanted it to be like a short clip, and then it just, I don't know. I just go, what if I record here, or what if I record here and try this, and then before I knew it, it was like I had enough content. I was like, let me just maybe edit it together. And I said, it will just be a video. But I didn't put much thought into that. It literally, again, was just...
it worked, though, because the track, as you said, is simple. It's kind of, it feels like a long freestyle. So it kind of works having that more low-key, kind of unassuming video. That's
I mean, it was weird. The thing inspired it because I think for the first really half of that video, it was it's just me kind of standing, with the cap on and stuff, and I'm just rapping very, very quite static, and that was inspired by Skepta. He done this track Nasty, which is like very famous for him, and if you watch the music video, it's literally he's sitting on a chair like this, and the way that the lighting is, the whole thing's blue, and he's been you can't. It's so dark you can't see him or anything. It's literally just like a shadow with the background blue, and it's 2 minutes of that. So it's literally just that, and it's and his head's moving like this, but you can't see him rap. You can't see anything, and I just thought, wow, this got so many views, and it's literally nothing's happening. So that kind of inspired that, where it's just, I'm not going to move it, I'm not going to go crazy and things like this. And then, things happened as they happened. But definitely, I think different ideas for music videos to tell the stories of the songs as well, for sure. But again, that will probably take more planning, more time.
Money.
Money. So, but it's all in the thoughts. I'm happy, it's second week of 2024, and already got the first verse out and such like this, so it's a step in the right direction. We're hopefully it's not just gonna, I was thinking it's gonna be like 2023, so I'm gonna do this and this, and then I was waiting for 2024 to come and just be like, I didn't do anything, or so we'll get there.
With the new year and resolutions and stuff, like, are there any new sort of things you're implementing, new ideas or approaches you've got, not just to music but maybe to life as well, because that all feeds into each other? What's some thought shifts that you've had? Or maybe you're doing great and it's like, just keep doing it.
This it's hard. I think a lot of changes I think I've made they were just before the new year, so I think it was trying to kind of keep all of that and work from there, because like I said, I'd moved now, still doing watches and in the watch industries, but I'd made a change in the end of November, like literally December. So this is still very fresh. So for me, that's more of a keep doing what I'm doing in that regard. And then from the music perspective, I think it's a case of trying new things. So now I'm in one stage of life it's kind of a little bit more I guess grounded, and then in the music stage it's like just go crazy and you know, try to take any opportunity that comes and go for that. So I think that's the kind of mindset is try to say yes more without burning yourself out, and just say we'll and then, you know, when it comes to 2025, we can then look back and say, oh, okay, so I did all this, and, you know, I know I was listening to J. Cole quite a bit, and he will sometimes have these years where it's just, he will just be on every feature that you're hearing. He's just like, and very different styles of music. And I look at that and I'm like, and that's what I want to do. That's what I need to do. So that's what I want to look back on 2025 and say, okay, I hopped on a lot of different stuff and made some cool things. So yeah, that's how I think it's at going forward. And no dairy milk. Like you say, no dairy milk. None of that.
I'll try and join you on that one.
Yeah.
But no, thank you so much. I think we'll wrap up. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much as well for having me. It's first time doing this as well, so like, you know,
see, already ticking things off.
But yeah, this has been amazing.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next time.
I'm the one to watch, but they just won't do it because they play things safe, subprime.